What's up, guys? It's Chachi Power here to do a little Rocket Punch Army video that was inspired by two videos that I watched recently. One was of Maddwoba's 9 favorite Transformers, and the other was the 8-Bit Champion's video of his 5 favorite toys that he owns. Now, either one, for me, to follow up on those videos would be a very difficult task. Number one, picking out 9 Transformers that I like. Almost impossible job, seeing as I own hundreds of them. And picking 5 of my favorite toys that I own is also kind of difficult because the very most favorite one that I have is packed away and in storage, very difficult to get to, and a couple of other ones that I have to go digging through since I don't keep them out. What I did decide to do in this video is something that I hope a lot of you guys want to do video responses for, or hopefully this inspires you guys to do a similar video, but it's toys that I have had since a child. Now, as most of you know, maybe some of you don't, I am up there in age. I'm 37, so I was an 80s kid, 70s kid. So there were like a few toys that I have that I've managed to keep throughout the years, alright? And each toy, you end up keeping some of them either because they get stuck in a box somewhere, or you just keep them because you love them. So this is a little mixture of both. You know, just to be completely honest, there are a couple of these that did not survive my childhood, but that I ended up getting now as an adult. So there's going to be 3 stages. There's going to be the actual ones that I have since I was a kid. There's going to be ones that are like later on, not so much when I was very young, and then there's the ones that I got as an adult. So you know, take a second, see which ones you think they are. Now, I would like to go in order of which ones I got first. I don't exactly remember, since childhood is slightly blurry to me. I've always liked robots, alright? And I was a big fan of Voltron, and I know Voltron wasn't out yet as far as toys. The cartoon was out, and then the official toys weren't out yet, but there was a lot of like Lion Bots and Go Lions, you know, filling up in the stores in preparation for the, you know, the official Voltron toys. So this happens to be one of them, and I don't think this was my first die-cast toy. So I'll get to that in a second. I'll give you the story on that one. I believe it was this guy, Dietarn 3. Now, it's not the original Clover, it's the Taiwan version, which was abundant in the 80s. When you go to stores, they were pretty cheap to find, and they were just bricks of metal. So even though I wanted a Voltron, I got this, and the story behind this is my uncle used to live over in New York, as did I, and he had bought one of these. I don't know if he had bought it for my cousin, because I didn't really see my cousin with it, but I'm sure it was for him. And he saw how much I liked it, that he actually went into his little room where he would keep his stuff and walked out with a box. I don't know if he had specifically gotten it for me, or if he had gotten another one for himself, and he gave it to me. I think he said he paid around $20 to $25 back then, which is a lot of money. All right, might have been less, who knows? But he did give me one, and of course I didn't complain. I couldn't have Voltron. We couldn't afford the Lion Bot and all that back then. So I had this, and this thing was amazing. I could not let go of this thing. It was like a Transformer and a robot at the same time. And Transformers obviously was something I wanted as a child too. I didn't know anything about this guy. I just thought it was like a weird robot. I knew there was something going on because there was some Japanese writing, you know, the logos and stuff. I just didn't know what cartoon he was from, but I still enjoyed the toy very much. As a matter of fact, one of the longest reviews I have is of this toy, so I suggest you check that out whenever you get a chance. It's on my Chachi Power channel, and I did a review of it on Collection DX. So yeah. So I had gotten this. This is not the original, unfortunately. This is one I've gotten recently, or somewhat recent. The original, I believe, is in my cousin's house, because around the time when, you know, girls start coming around, you're more interested in, you know, hooking up with girls, and toys are not something you want to be messing with. I did see the styrofoam with the accessories and the robot in the kitchen table at my cousin's house, and at the time I didn't really care, but now that I do care, it's a problem to get them to get that for me. So I got this one to replace it. which is fine. I would still like to have the original. I don't care how beat up it is. Now, I did want to start in order with the ones that I had as a childhood, but, you know, whatever. We'll move on. Aside from that one, we will go in order this time. So, I actually don't know which is the very first one out of all these. I'm going to say it's this guy, R2-D2. Now, this guy, I did mess around with him a lot, and as a matter of fact, I had not watched the movie yet when I had the toy. I think the very first movie that I was taken to with Star Wars, even though I knew Star Wars, like they had the magazines, all my friends told me all about it. Back then, there was no internet. It was just all word of mouth. So I felt pretty, as stupid as that sounds, I felt pretty comfortable with what I knew about Star Wars back then as a kid. But the very first time I was taken to see a Star Wars movie, the one that I do remember vividly is Return of the Jedi. But I did have this character, R2-D2, before I saw that movie, and I remember knowing a lot about the figures, the action figures, and you know the names and everything. So who knows? So he's survived. This guy's about 35 years old now. He does have the stamping of 1977. So he survived, and this is him. Pretty beat up, but he's still intact mostly. He's missing the little scope thing that pops out here. The ratchets are no longer working on the head. Alright, but that's that guy. Alright, then, alright, so I showed you the Diton, which should have been the next one, but we're just going to skip over to this guy. Like I said, Voltron was on the air. It was still relatively new on the air, but it was, you know, everybody wanted it. Unfortunately, there were no Voltron toys. So someone had the idea of bringing over the existing Voltron toys, which are not Voltron toys. It was the Go Lion, and apparently Go Lion was so popular at the time that they started making Lion bots with the same type of box and everything. But anyway, this was not from a Lion bot set. They actually sold the Lions separately. This Yellow Lion came in a gray box, which you can see in one of the Voltron videos I did. It was a few videos I did back-to-back of Voltron stuff very recently. And he came in a gray box, and the box actually said Chogokin on it in English. It had the logo, but it said Chogokin. And the box was gray. It was a window box type, and I believe from memory that it did have the Go Lion logo on it. The one that I have now says Lion on it. Maybe that's, my memory's bad, but I'm pretty sure it had a Go Lion logo, but it wasn't, I don't think it was an official Go Lion release. As far as I know, Go Lions didn't make single packs of the Lions in gray boxes. But anyway, I got this one. We went to this little Chinese shop in New York City, where I lived in Queens. And they had this, I remember it pretty well. It was right by a window on a shelf, and the Yellow Lion was my favorite. It was the very first Voltron Lion toy that I saw as a kid, when I didn't even know they existed. I was just in school one day, I forgot the kid's name. He walked by my lunch table with the Yellow Lion on his lunch tray, and I nearly had a fit. Like, I couldn't express the kind of emotions that went through me seeing that there was a Voltron toy, or knowing that there was a Voltron toy and it was gigantic, because as a kid this thing is gigantic. So I was like, well, if the Yellow Lion's that big, the rest of the robot is huge. But he didn't have the whole robot, he just had the Yellow Lion. And I freaked out when I knew it was made of die-cast. So yeah, so there we are in the store. They had this, I believe it was $10, alright? And this is the actual original one that has survived. And notice, it's not loose. This is probably one of the best built Voltron Lions that I've ever seen in my life. Nothing is loose. The paint is incredible for the amount of torture I put this thing through as a kid. I mean, the amount of torture is just insane, and the thing is still together. I think the only thing I've ever replaced is the tail. The tail did break, and I tried to like paint it, like modify it, like make this up here black. I think the teeth are still intact too. It does have sharp teeth. I did paint like, or I did take off the paint on top here to, you know, match the actual screen version of him. I did a bunch of stuff to it, but it's still intact. And it was my first real, I guess, Voltron toy, even though it wasn't an official. But this is, and I'm going to tell you guys this right now, is better I have original Go Lions. I have the Voltron Matchbox set. This one is built so much better. I don't know what it is, and it's actually not an official release. So, yeah, so that's that one. Now, we didn't have a lot of money when we were living in Queens. So once in a while, my mom would stop and get toys here and there. Some of them have gone on to be lost. You know, some of those plastic toys like these, which I'm going to get to right now. But this one is one that I kept messing around with. I loved it. It's so much, in fact, that it's still intact. Intact as far as not having to replace anything broken, but I did have to replace a couple of little things like these little guns here, which I went on a massive hunt for, because I know they make those Iron Car versions, which are pretty much identical, just slightly different plastic quality, or at least the shade of color. So I had to hunt down an actual Sunrise licensed one that's made in Taiwan, because they have an actual Japanese one, and they have the one that's licensed to the Taiwan makers to make, I don't know if they're still bootlegs or whatever, but yeah, so I had to hunt one of them down to get all the pieces I need, but for the most part remained relatively intact. And again, grew up with this, messing around with this, loving it, and you know, as a matter of fact, it's pretty much this that got me into continuing on with Japanese robots. I knew the name on the box said Zabungo Iron Gear, so I knew that growing up, but I didn't have anything to look at. There was no internet. I couldn't search for it. So I knew there was something more to it. I just did not know at the time. Now that I do, I have a lot more Iron Gear stuff. But at the time, yeah, this was definitely something that did pique my interest in Japanese robots. So this is a very important piece to me. Around that time, I guess, or around at a certain point in time, you know, Transformers is out and everything, and I was one of those kids that loved Transformers but couldn't get them. They were expensive, or we just didn't have the money for them. But I looked out one day. We were in a store called Alexander's that was also in Queens, and we went in there, and I remember the expensive Transformers were on the shelves with all the other Transformers, and then there was like a bin with clearance Transformers. So of course I went to the clearance bin, and I don't know who else was on there. If I do remember correctly, there was actually some cool figures in the clearance bin, like if I'm not mistaken, guys, I think it was like Jazz, a couple other cool ones that, you know, could go for quite a bit today. But I don't know if that's true, for what reason I chose Hound, but I chose Hound, and I've had him ever since. You'll notice he doesn't even have a head, but at least the mirrors here are still intact. But aside from that, it's pretty beat up. But yeah, this is one of those from my childhood, and I love this thing. Still have it. Want to find the head for it. Hopefully I will, and I'll just, you know, display it along with all my other stuff. But I do have a new Hound. You know, it looks nice, has nice stickers and everything, but there's something about this old one that just, you know, can't be replaced. And that's me having played with this for years and years, and it's still with me. So now, around a little bit after that, I guess, started getting into Thundercats. So even though I have a bunch of Thundercats, this is, you know, obviously Lino, the main one, the, you know, the more popular one. So I had this a little older now. I think I was already living in New Jersey when I got this. But yeah, this had an impact on me back then, Thundercats, you know, as it did with most kids. So yeah, had a few Thundercats. This one is the original one I had as a kid also, but you'll see at some point I did paint the sword silver and tried to paint the Eye of Thundera on there. So it's a little silly. And it's weird, is like the plastic is gummy now. If you touch it, it's kind of sticky. It doesn't matter if you wash it. And around that, the same time for that, actually, I think this may have been next or before Lino. I don't know. This is not the original. This is a replacement. One of many, because this toy, when I got it, I remember it was $8. We got it at some mall. This was already later on, late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, I don't remember. A few years after all this other stuff. But anyway, we bought it. Toy was awesome. I really thought it was going to look like this. Alright? And I do suggest checking out my video for Collection DX and review on this guy. So try and search for that. It's the M Lover Mai, or however you pronounce that. But yeah, I had that for a while, and I still have the original, but it's in pieces, and I don't think I can find those pieces. And the reason they're in pieces because this does not survive time well. In fact, you'll see it's like hermetically sealed in plastic. There's like no reason to ever take this out because it's just going to completely disintegrate in your hand. But I did want to have it the way I remembered it, which is in the box like this. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then after that, it's like, you know, all the other Transformers that were out, like later on, you know, now we're already living in Jersey, got a little bit more money, so got a little bit more toys. But yeah, these two guys, not much as far as nostalgia. Like this guy I rarely played with. I was already a little older and not really into toys, but did end up getting this. Not much play with that one. I do remember messing with this guy a lot, so he may have been earlier than that. And I think the only other one that's missing from this video is Rugger, or actually the vehicle Voltron. I'm so used to saying Rugger, but it's the vehicle Voltron I had, and that was my first real official Voltron. And unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I don't have it here for the video, but fortunately I do still have it with me somewhere stored away. But I don't know. Oh, this guy just happened to be laying around. I remember this guy. Power Glide, just had him for a review, but also got that guy. But I don't know. I just figured I'd make a little review about toys that you know, I grew up with and meant a lot to me. So if you guys have toys that have survived the years or they mean something to you for whatever reason, it'd be kind of cool to see you guys do a video. But until next time, guys.